As strange as it sounds, a bout of the blues could be good for you by adopting our miserable sides. Research in The New Scientist suggests we can become better able to cope with life's challenges.
It also says that treating mild depression with drugs could interfere with our biological makeup. In a moment, we'll speak to psychiatrist and Alistair Campbell, who's been very open about suffering from depression himself. Here's a clip from the documentary he made about depression.
8 years before I began working for Tony Blair, I had a serious nervous breakdown. It was a horrible experience. Even now, it's not that easy to relive it. I was drinking very heavily and put myself under huge pressure to succeed in my career, and I crashed. The crack-up itself, which happened right here, was absolutely terrifying. You get very, very scared. I remember thinking I was going to die. That episode triggered a severe depression, and now, like millions of other people, I live with this illness. Insofar as depression tends to be defined as a mental illness, then I suffer from depression, and therefore I suffer from mental illness, periodically. It's just a fact. I think we'd all be a lot better off if actually we just kind of could say that pretty openly.
Well, Alistair Campbell joins us now, along with the psychiatrist Dr. Paul Keedwell. Can I just clarify something straight away, which I think this report, to my mind, starts to blur things between feeling sad, feeling low, which people do, and depression, because the medical profession is always keen to make us clear that depression is not sadness. It is a disease. And this, to me, this report seems to blur this a little bit.
Yes, I think so. Well, I think probably the reporting of it's got blurred as well. But, yes, sadness and depression are very different animals. Sadness is the everyday experience that we can all feel. Depression, I would say, very much an illness. It's an episode which affects your functioning day to day. You know, and it's characterised by lack of energy, difficulty getting pleasure from things you used to get enjoyment from, and a sort of pervasive sadness which you know, you can't shift, and it's like a runaway train that will go on for some time.
Alistair, was your depression treated chemically? Was it treated with drugs?
At times, yeah. And I mean, I've always been, I said in that film, I've always been very kind of medicine resistant. I don't like taking drugs of any sort, and I only take them when it gets really bad. And I kind of have I've got used to the sort of rhythms, if you like, of my depression. I know it will come along from time to time. If it goes on for too long, then I will take medication. But actually, I kind of try to deal with it myself. And
by dealing with it yourself, do you find that is an empowering, strengthening experience from which you strangely benefit?
Well, I certainly feel that that experience that I described in that film, my breakdown, this sounds odd to people who were around me at the time, but I now feel it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I just sort of sorted myself out from it, and I think a lot of the things I've gone on to do, I couldn't have done if I hadn't had that sort of sorting out experience. And I just see the kind of intermittent bouts of depression as kind of part of that, and I've sort of grown to accept it. And just as people, they accept other kind of illnesses that they get. I mean, at the moment, for example, I'm not on medication. I feel absolutely fine. I do get kind of a bit sort of agitated when people say, "Oh, I'm really depressed today." And what they mean is it's raining, or you know, they were late for the train, or whatever it might be. Real depression is a kind of absolutely horrible, intense experience that you wouldn't wish on anybody. But it does go.
Are we in danger because of this report, and in a way, what Alistair's saying, of getting to the point where it's saying a little bit of depression is good for you?
No, I don't think I'm saying that.
Well, I mean, you were saying in a way that it sort of made you the man you are now.
I'm saying that that's how I have kind of handled it and how I've tried to use it to some good. I'd rather I didn't get depressed.
But, I mean, do you take my point from this New Scientist report? It appears to suggest that, you know, it isn't necessarily a bad thing to have some depression.
I think it's important to put that side, because I mean, people feel stigmatised by depression, and you know, if it's over-medicalised, then you know, they feel they need to hide it, or they feel they've got a defect in some way. So it's important to say that there is another side after depression, and actually, I mean, this is not a new argument. It's been here since Aristotle, that depression can bring real insights, philosophical, spiritual, psychological. And it can be a wake-up call for most people who experience depression.
Because there is that saying, isn't there, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The trouble is, the other side of depression is it can be so devastating that if it isn't treated properly, it can kill you.
Well, look, that's true, and I mean, some people just find that they get so overwhelmed by their feelings that they can't face life. I mean, the worst of depression, you can't, as Paul was saying, you can't sort of face the day. And if you take that to its ultimate conclusion, you can't sort of face life. But I feel, I mean, one of the reasons I made that film, and one of the reasons I've written a novel about a psychiatrist and some of these issues, is because I think that if we can just be a bit more open about it. I mean, I agree with you about that, having that concern that you're sort of just blurring the lines and you're just sort of saying it'd be great if everybody had a little bit of depression. I don't buy that at all. But where people do get depression, I think if there's more openness about it, more openness in the workplace, more openness amongst the medical professions about what it entails, about the way it affects them, then I think we'd all be better off.
Yeah.
We're out of time on this one. It's a fascinating discussion. We could talk about it a lot more, I know, but we are out of time. But thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.